Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. I didn't realize this was such an international audience today. So I'm really excited to talk with you about this very unique journey that we've been on at IBM to transform one of the largest and oldest companies in the world with design. And just a little bit about me. So I'm Katrina Alcorn. I'm General Manager of Design for IBM. And I've spent more than 20 years leading design for companies in various industries, from small startups to large enterprises like IBM. I spent more than half my career as a consultant and then later as an in-house design leader. And I've seen over and over again, firsthand, how design can transform a business. So I joined IBM a little under 2 years ago, and we moved from the Bay Area to where I'm here talking to you now, here in New York. So that was in 2021. And when I joined the company, we already had a world-class design program. So my job was to take it to the next level and to ensure that we're really leveraging design to be a true strategic differentiator. So what I'd like to do is talk a bit about what we've been doing at IBM primarily over the last decade to build up the practice of design. And then we've been at this long enough that we have some real tangible benefits that I'd like to share from our investment in design. And then I'll share some of the lessons that a business leader can apply as they embark on a journey like this. And there will be plenty of time for questions. So please add them in, as Joe said, add them into the comment as we chat as we go, and we'll address them at the end. So we'll start with our design journey. First, a little bit about IBM. IBM is more than a 100-year-old company, but we have always been about helping people do more with their data. In the past, that meant anything from technology that drove punch cards to typewriters to mainframes and personal computers. And today, that takes the form of hybrid cloud and artificial intelligence technology. Now, at many points in our history, design played a very important role in how we innovate. And, there are different ways you can tell the story, but I like to go back to 1952. That's when our CEO at the time, Thomas Watson Jr., took the helm as CEO of IBM. And he's the one who famously said, "Good design is good business." And he really believed this. He was a true champion of design. So Watson Jr., soon after he came on board, he recruited a very talented architect and industrial designer named Elliot Noyes to create a corporate design program. And that's the program that I lead today. At the time, this was the late 50s, early 60s, Elliot Noyes brought together world-renowned designers like Paul Rand, who designed our iconic 8-bar logo, Charles and Ray Eames, many others, and all of them would leave an indelible mark on design. But I'm going to fast forward to 2012, because somewhere along the way we lost our way with design. At that point in 2012, you only had a few dozen designers in a global company of, in 2012, it was more than 350,000 employees with a few dozen designers. And it really showed, it was showing in our products. So we needed to bring design back. It was critical for the company. The woman on the left is Ginny Rometty, and she was our CEO at the time. And she saw this opportunity to usher in a new era of design at IBM, to make it the key strategic differentiator. And she tasked the man on the right, Phil Gilbert, with doing that. Now, Phil is a really interesting guy. He had transformed his own startup, Lombardi, with design. He wasn't a designer by training, but he really believed in design and design thinking. And it was core to how he led his company. And for that reason, his products were superior in the market. And so Ginny asked him to do for IBM what he had done for his own company. And she gave him the role of general manager of design. Phil quickly sort of surveyed the land, figured out who was who at IBM, started assembling a team, and then that team started hiring designers, lots and lots of designers all over the world. So in about an 8-year period, they hired something like 2,500 professional designers. And I remember when he was starting on this journey, I didn't know Phil at the time, but I was at GE, and a New York Times story had just come out about IBM declaring that they were going to hire 1,000 designers. Phil was interviewed for that, and all of us kind of looked at each other, design leaders, and were like, how are they going to find 1,000 designers? But of course, they blew past that target and hired many more. But here's one of the first lessons, super important when you're embarking on a journey like this. It is not enough just to hire designers. You've got to create the conditions for design to be successful. So what I'm going to go through next are some of the key programs that Phil and team put in place that created the foundation for design to thrive. The first one was around career paths. At a lot of companies, I think design maybe goes up to a director level, is often not even that high, and then it tops out. At IBM, we wanted design to be a place where IBM to be a place where our design leaders could really grow their whole career, because we make really complicated stuff for people with sophisticated, complicated jobs to do. And there's a lot of value in having people stay at IBM and develop their skills and their domain expertise. So long story short, we created 2 distinct career paths. One is the technical track, where design leaders can set a standard for design and best practices. These are rock star designers, and it goes all the way up to an executive level. And then we created a management track, and that's more straightforward. These leaders are accountable for the organizational and business conditions that lead to quality and differentiated outcomes. And that also goes all the way up to executive levels. Another thing the team did was to develop a common approach to practicing design, which is so important for a large company like IBM, because it's very hard to collaborate if we don't have a common language and a common understanding of what we're doing. So we developed this enterprise design thinking program. We call it EDT, that's the acronym, Enterprise Design Thinking. And it's really how we activate the entire company to be human-centered, to work well with designers. So, a thing that I think is really important is often people will hire designers and think, well, the rest takes care of itself. But for design to be successful, you've got to have product managers and developers and salespeople and marketing people and this whole ecosystem of partners working together to make better solutions that we take to market. And so that's what EDT does for us. It helps activate everyone. Here's another example. In this case, this is how we've been building a culture where design can thrive. About 2 or 3 times a year, we hosted Design Jam, and this is like a hackathon for designers. We bring together designers from across the company, and they come together for a couple days to design solutions around a common prompt. We recently did one for around a prompt around sustainability. How do we make our products more in line with our goals around sustainability? And it's a great opportunity to learn from your coworkers, to get outside your day job, to explore big ideas, and it's fun. We gamify it. There are judges. There's a winning team, and they win a cash prize. But it's a very, very motivating process. And we come out with a whole lot of ideas that often end up getting on roadmaps and ultimately leading to more innovation in our company. Another thing we did is we created this program for measuring design excellence or product excellence. And this is important because measurement is, the idea of design excellence, it can be very, very subjective and very hard to sort of say you hit the mark or you didn't hit the mark. So we've created this review program called DUX. It's our Design and User Experience Review Program. And what we do is before a product ships, we conduct a review using a very rigorous set of heuristics. It's the team together has been really thinking it through and evolving it over the years we've been doing it. These reviews are attended by a cross-functional team. And at the end of the review, the product gets a letter grade. Now, most of our software products are required to have a DUX review with a design executive and with a cross-functional team. And what we've seen over time is that it's creating a shared sense of accountability across our cross-functional teams for design excellence. We have a shared definition of what it is, and we all feel responsible for delivering on it. We also invested in creating a world-class design system. Our design system is called Carbon. It's been key to how we are designing at scale. It's making us more productive and efficient. I'll share some of the metrics on that, but it's also just helping us drive excellence into our products. And it wasn't easy. We had 16 different design systems when the teams got started on this a few years ago, and they very methodically worked through them to align them into one common system that is now being adopted across hundreds of products. Okay, so I just gave you the overview of kind of what things were in place more or less when I was coming on board in 2021. And that's when, of course, we faced a big shift. Phil was ready to move on to his next thing, and I took on the role that he'd been playing as general manager. And I will be honest, it was intimidating at first. So going back to my background, I had built 2 very successful design practices at other companies before joining IBM, but never at this scale. And this was the first time that I was walking into a role where we had so much going on for us already. And I had a moment in the beginning where I thought, what am I doing here that so much of this has been thought out? At the time that I joined, IBM had one of the largest design practices of any company in the world. We had close to 3,000 designers in 150 countries. We had hundreds of thousands of design thinkers that had gone through our EDT program, and they were designing everything from hardware and software to internal tools and web experiences. So I spent the first few months on the job on a listening tour around the company. And I know I'm speaking with designers, so I think you'll appreciate this. I used to design products and web experiences. That's how I got my start. And now I'm at a stage in my career where I have hundreds of people reporting to me. I'm much more removed from the work than I ever have been. And I'm no longer hands-on designing products anymore, but I'm still working as a designer. I still see my role as designing design. And similar it is to design as it is to design a product. It starts with research. So I did my research, I worked with my team, and we came to the conclusion that, we had the right foundation in place, but we weren't yet getting the full value of design. So the question was, how could we scale excellence? How might we put design to its highest and best use? Because we had these pockets of excellence where design was really working. What we were putting out in the market was fantastic. People loved it, but it wasn't consistent across everything we did. So the goal here was, how do we scale excellence? How do we drive pervasive excellence across the company? And I want to pause and say what that means, because I think the way we define product excellence or design excellence is very, very important. I think it's 3 things, and each one has a role to play. So the first part is, design excellence means we're solving the right problems for customers, whether or not they can articulate the thing we're creating solves a real need that they have, right? Then the second part is we solve that problem for them well. And that means that the final solution, whether it's a piece of hardware or software or a program or something else, it's removing friction from a process. Most of the things that we design are things that people use to do their work. So the end result should be a solution that helps them do their jobs better, that helps them, get home on time to see their kids and have dinner. It should be, well-functioning solution. And then the last part is, it should be aligned to our brand and our values. And there's really 2 parts of that. Aligned to the brand is, at this point, really about, are we leveraging the Carbon design system? Do the things that we create look and feel and behave like they come from our company? But then on the values part, there's also a lot of work there because we have very stated goals at IBM around things like ethical use of data, diversity and inclusion, sustainability, driving, world goals around sustainability. So how are the final solutions we're delivering to the world aligning with those values? That's very important. So long story short, this is what we're doing now to create the conditions for pervasive excellence. We've got 3 areas we're focused on. Number 1 is we're following the research or the customer insights to create stronger access to customers, to make sure that we're taking the feedback from customers and feeding it back into everything we do. Number 2 is about our cross-functional teams, making sure that we are empowering our teams to work together better, more efficiently, more collaboratively, and to come up with more innovative solutions. And there's a bunch of work we're doing around that. Right now, we're very focused on enablement for product managers and making sure our product managers are aligned with our designers in terms of how they approach human-centered innovation. And then the third area is around learning. Like I said before, we work in very complex domains, and we really want our designers to stay at IBM and to grow their careers and to do their best work. And so we've, when I came on board, we had some great learning programs for early career designers at IBM. We're now expanding those for mid-career designers. So we're still on this journey. It's still unfolding, but we're starting to reap the benefit. And the first benefit is that our IBMers, both our designers and non-designers, are just becoming more innovative. So I talked a little bit about EDT, Enterprise Design Thinking. By the way, you can check out the program on IBM.com. The URL is here, and you can even go through the practitioner training, which is a couple hours of self-directed training, so you can get a taste of it. But this is a really important program, like I said, for activating not only designers, but everyone who works with a designer. And at this point, we've trained close to 500,000 people, both inside and outside of IBM, on how to do EDT. And we're starting to see a real impact from this work. We've had a few external evaluations of our program by Forrester. And in this case, this is some stats from their total economic impact study. And what they found was essentially they did interviews with IBM clients, they interviewed our executives, they did a survey. And what they found was that our design thinking practice is leading to it's faster time to market. We're wasting less development time. Our developers are more efficient because we're able to kind of hone in on the right solution more quickly. I mentioned design jams a few minutes ago. Every time we do a design jam, we send the survey out to hundreds of people who participated. And here's what we heard from the last one we did on sustainability. 92% of the people who participated said just participating in a design jam made them more innovative. About the same amount said it made them feel more engaged in their job. And 86% said that it helped them grow their skills as a result of participating. And this is just a couple days effort. Okay, so we're becoming more innovative. And of course, you can imagine, as it's a direct line to then seeing that our products and services are just getting better. And we're now seeing this show up in the data. So right now, the main way that we measure customer satisfaction is through NPS. We're in the process of evolving that. I think there's other measurements that we need to bring in, and we're actively working on that right now. But we have a baseline in NPS, Net Promoter Score. And when we did an analysis recently, we looked at product NPS scores for products with a dedicated design team and those that did not have a dedicated design team. And we saw a 33 percentage point improvement in NPS for those products that did have a design team. And of course, higher NPS leads to higher revenue. So this is very, very important business metric for us. Another thing that we're seeing is that our design and user experience scores are growing over time. So we're notoriously tough graders. We have a very rigorous process for grading ourselves. But I think one of the things that's happening is just the fact that we have these DUX reviews with a cross-functional team. It's creating a sense of shared accountability for design excellence. So it's not just on design to make it happen, it's on everyone. And as a result, it's changing behavior. And so we're seeing our DUX scores go up. We're also starting to win a lot of design awards. Last year, we won a record number of Red Dot awards. We won 3 for software products for cloud security and data and AI. And then the Carbon Design System I mentioned also won a Red Dot award. And then our consulting teams in IBM iX won an award for a client project they did on the mobile experience. We're also winning lots of other awards, and we love to do that. It makes us really happy. Last year, we made it to the Fast Company Design Company of the Year list, which we're really proud of. And I want to underscore that we're not just winning design awards because the products look better. We're winning them because the products work better. So this is a great example. This screenshot you're looking at is from our security division. And we had a security software called Security Playbook Designer. It's basically how do I explain this? It's a piece of software that helps people responding to a cybersecurity threat to put together a playbook quickly to decide how to respond. And the old product that we had, it was just too cumbersome. There were too many clicks, too many screens, and it would take people more than a week to get that playbook together. And this is in a very time-sensitive situation. So we redesigned, we put a design team on it, did our research, redesigned the product to happen all on one screen. And we took that 1 week process and now it takes an hour and our clients love it. So these are the types of transformative changes that we're driving. All right, the next benefit is that we're also seeing improvements to our business. And this is just the very beginning. I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on this. By the way, McKinsey put out a study last year on the value of design. It's a great series that they do. And in this study in 2022, they found that designers may add as much value redesigning your company as redesigning your products. And we're just starting to dip our toe into that. So here's one proof point. We have a small design team in our consulting business that just helps design the business to make improvements on how people are working and things like that. And in this case, we knew that we had an issue with new executives really struggling to sort of get into the meat of their jobs when they joined IBM. And as a result, they were quitting sooner than we would like. So we had an attrition problem. And if they stayed, they weren't meeting the revenue targets as quickly as we would like. So we could have tried to jump to a solution. We could have said, oh, we're hiring the wrong people, or it's their manager's fault. But instead, we put a design team on it and they did their research. And what they found was that they found in great detail how challenging it is to join a big company like IBM and immediately be successful. And so they ended up designing a program that pairs a veteran IBM executive with a brand new IBM executive. And they saw almost immediate improvement in how people were working. So we saw attrition come down, great, big improvement in retention. And we also saw these executives hitting their revenue targets much faster. Another benefit we're seeing is specific to our design system investment. And I like to call it out because I think a lot of companies don't want to put the work in for a design system, but if you do, you really reap the benefits, especially at a big company like ours. So we've been on a multi-year journey with the Carbon Design System. It is now quite mature. As I mentioned, it just won a Red Dot last year. It's made up of about 350 coded components, and this is reusable code. This gives you a sample of the types of things that are in Carbon. And what we're finding is that now that our software teams are adopting Carbon, they're seeing massive efficiency gains. So our, I think it was our cloud team did an analysis, and they said that for every component that they adopt from Carbon, they see 2,000 hours of savings combined between development time and designer time. And of course, the other benefit is that our products are starting to look and behave in a similar way. So it's driving product excellence, design excellence into the products as well. And here's another example of that. So in this case, all we did was reskin a legacy product with the Carbon design system guidelines and components. And we immediately saw a big jump up in NPS from 49 to 66, and the duck score jumped up from a D to a B. And that was without any other UX changes. The last benefit I'll touch on is about how we're working with our clients. So we have, a big product division where we make hardware and software, and then we have this big consulting division that is constantly working with clients on their own projects. And what we found when we started introducing design thinking into those engagements is the whole relationship with our clients changed. And our clients noticed that too. They said, wow, IBM is really showing up differently. So we did an economic impact study on how this was working in our consulting division. And what we found was that when leveraging design thinking, these client engagements produced many more innovative ideas, something like 10x, and they were much quicker to get the final solution to market. So our clients are getting a better outcome. And of course, we're getting a better outcome because it's leading to better repeat business. So this is a summary of the benefits we've gotten from our investment in design, and it's only going to get better from here. Our IBMers are becoming more innovative. Our products and services are demonstrably better. We're making great improvements to our business. Our design system is leading to massive savings and helping us scale excellence. And we're co-creating better with our clients. So sometimes I talk with our clients about the journey they're on with design. And these are some of the lessons we've learned that I think can apply to many, many companies. The first one is you've got to have the strong design leader. Without a strong design leader, it's very hard to get anywhere with design. You need that culture champion, and then that person needs to have strong executive support all the way up to the CEO, because that's how that person will be successful and how the function will be successful. Second of all, you've got to get that foundation in place. So it's important that people understand you can't just hire designers and throw them into your company. You've got to create a foundation where they can thrive. For us, that meant everything from creating a shared approach to how we design, creating the enterprise design thinking program to activate our partners, to creating clear career paths so designers could grow and stay with us, creating good training programs like our award-winning Patterns Designer Bootcamp that we are now extending to mid-career designers, having a strong design system. There's all kinds of other community and culture programs that we sponsor that I didn't even get into today. So those pieces are very important. Third lesson is about client centricity or customer centricity. This has to be everyone's job. If it's left only to the design teams, you're not going to get very far. So the designers are often, and design researchers are the people who are often the voice of the customer. They're very close to the customer, but to actually deliver on customer centricity, it's got to be an everyone job. And design thinking is really the way that we've been driving that culture change. We have a saying in design that everything is a prototype. And I love this because it gives us permission to try new things and to not necessarily get it right the first time. So this is the spirit of experimentation that we bring to just about anything we do. It's how we bring a growth mindset for all IBMers to try new things. And ultimately, this is how innovation happens. And then the last lesson is that once you've got design humming and you're doing great with your products and services, apply that same innovation, those same design thinking processes to how you run your business. It's not just every business has room to grow and be better and all of that. And I think designers and design thinking can help. And I have not been looking at the chat at all. So this is the time we will pivot to questions.
Hi, I could help with that, Katrina. Well,
all right.
Yeah, and well, let's see. A little earlier, is going back earlier in your presentation, Anne had the comment that many companies struggle to create a proper career path for individual contributors. Can you talk more about how you have succeeded in the individual contributor career track and how you choose the right people to be, I believe, on the manager track?
Yeah, well, some of this is self-selection, and people declare, where they want to go, and then sometimes their managers will encourage them to go in one direction or the other. I think what IBM did that was really important is we mirrored that technical track for designers on the technical track that we already had in place for engineers. And that gives legitimacy to what we're doing with design. So we have the same sort of corporate review process for someone moving into what we call design principal. And then the next level is distinguished designer. And then the tippy top level is fellow, which is very, very hard to achieve. But it mirrors those same processes and also the same levels as engineering. And so it kind of keeps us sort of on par.
Well, we had a question from Chad. Do you use any frameworks for design roles and responsibilities on teams? At IBM, are product owners designers? How do you capitalize on, quote, everyone is a designer?
Yeah, that's a controversial saying, right? Everyone's a designer, but everyone's not a designer. You still need designers with the hardcore design skills doing design. So the question was, do we have frameworks for, like, RACI frameworks for how we define responsibilities between the different folks? Is that what the questioner is asking?
Chad, if you have any further clarification, you could type that in the chat, and I could watch for that. Let's see. I'll wait to see if Chad puts anything. Rapid or other?
RACI, yeah. So Rapid I'm not familiar with, but RACI I'm familiar with. We do have teams that do RACIs. I'll tell you my bias. I've done RACIs in the past on teams, and they can get very, very detailed. And in my experience, they don't end up getting used when they're that detailed. It's like if I have to look at a detailed spreadsheet to figure out whether I'm an approver or a reviewer, you kind of lost the serendipity of working together. So I think one of the ways we address these roles and responsibilities is through our design thinking training that I keep hammering on, because it really is the program that we use to get everyone working together and pulling in the same direction. It's how we teach that mindset of human-centered innovation. And we don't get super rigid about, who does what, but we do define, we actually have badges that are role-based, but the roles are things like you're an advocate, which is what an executive often is playing that role, or you're a practitioner, so you're hands-on designing the solution, or you're a facilitator, and that's a really different role. People with different job titles could play the same. Actually, I'll mention one other thing while you're looking for the next question. And I think I mentioned this in my talk. We are doing a lot of work in our design program right now, specifically to create some of the culture change that we did in design, to do that with product management. And so we have this product management office now that's part of our design program office. And these folks are leveraging a lot of the stuff that we did with design thinking, but adding it to a curriculum specifically for product managers, because they're responsible for a whole bunch of other things that designers aren't necessarily responsible for. So it's helping us understand the overlaps and how we leverage each other's work.
All right, let's see. Wansi had a question. Can you talk a little bit more about how the design team turned 16 design systems to one? How many designers did it take, and how long was the process, and what were the biggest challenges?
Yeah. Well, I would have to get the team on to tell you more about that, because that was before my time, but I've heard the stories. Micah Bink, who's an incredible distinguished designer at IBM, could give a whole hour-long talk on this. Here's a couple things I know that worked though. When there were a couple different very senior technical design leaders at IBM who recognized the problem. They said, we've got 16 design systems that makes no sense, it's inefficient, and it makes us look bad. So they made a proposal to align those 16 into one, and they took it to the former general manager, Phil, who I talked about. And I think it was Phil and I think it was our chief marketing officer at the time, John Awada, who sponsored the work. So they had a top-down sponsorship for doing this work, and that made a lot of difference. It didn't change the fact that there's a lot of herding cats and different opinions, but one thing I've noticed at IBM is people are very nice, they're very smart, and they're very nice. And so once you have that top-down support, people have a tendency to kind of figure out how to solve the problem together, and that's what they did.
All right, let's see. Continuing on, well, looks like we got just about 10 minutes left in our Q&A time. Let's see. Pablo asked a question. How do you deal with executives who are not part of the design, quote, thinking idea and want to force design solutions just because they have the power to make decisions?
Yeah, it's so frustrating. And I've had many points in my career where I had executives swoop in who had no design background and tried to tell the team what the solutions should be. So one of the ways that we are addressing this, and I may sound like a broken record, but I'm hanging my hat on this enterprise design thinking program. I really think that you've got to have a way to teach people the mindset of design thinking and to teach them what role they should be playing. So within that program, we have these different trainings. One of the trainings we revamped last year. It's we used to call it our advocate badge, and now I think we're calling it customer-driven leadership. Essentially, it's training just for executives. And we spent a lot of time updating it last year because we were feeling like that top-down support for design was so important. And we started rolling it out to vice presidents, general managers, and at least one SVP, which is one level below the CEO at IBM. So that's as high as it goes. So they're engaging with the training, and it's teaching them sort of how to create the right conditions without necessarily swooping in and taking over.
All right, and then let's see, we had a question from Monica. Any advice about how you effectively introduce the culture of leadership and structure to a group of designers that have never had a leader before?
Oh, that's interesting. I guess the closest experience I had to that was at my last company when I was at Autodesk. I ended up centralizing the digital design teams that were sort of embedded in 7 different business units, and we centralized them into one. So they didn't have that structure before. It was not an easy process, but it was probably easier doing this with the designers than everyone else, because I think the designers recognized that they needed a stronger champion. They needed to be reporting up to someone who actually understood what they did for a living. So I remember having I remember doing a working session when we were kind of before we centralized the teams, and we had stated the intention of actually doing the centralization, and I was going to be the design leader. And so I pulled the most senior people from each of the teams, and we did a FUDS exercise, which is fears, uncertainties, and doubts. And we just got all the things they were worried about on the board, and we talked about it. And I think that was one of those pivotal moments where people felt like they were allowed to have concerns and they were allowed to voice them, and it created some psychological safety. And then we worked together toward, figuring out what we wanted this to do, what we wanted it to be like. And it was a fabulous experience for me. And I think we did some great things together as a centralized team.
Well, we have a few more questions. Oscar asked, what design breakthrough is the most challenging or rewarding, and what element of design are you most excited about currently within the company?
Oh, AI. I'm equal parts super excited about artificial intelligence and super afraid um, of it being used in the wrong way. One of the reasons that I chose to be at IBM, because we all choose our company, and it's very important that we align that our values are aligned with the people we work with. IBM has really been a leader in fair and ethical use of technology and data. And, I think every time I think I understand what we can do with AI, then I read another article or I see another presentation at work and I think, oh my gosh, there's so much in our future that we don't even know yet. Designers absolutely need to play a key role in how this technology is shaped and making sure that it is used in ethical ways and making sure that it is used in a way that makes life more fair and better for people. And I'm excited about that.
All right. Well, we're getting to the end of our time. We have a couple of more questions. See if we can get those in. Miles asked, are there any elements of a career ladder that you've found were particularly successful for achieving alignment about what different levels look like? And then inversely, anything that you tried that was counterproductive to that?
So the question, let me make sure I understood the question. It's how the career ladder is developed or how it's used. Can you say that part again?
Yeah, I think we need to get
Miles.
a
Okay, elements of it, I
clarification,
see it.
Miles. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so design has been the last one at the table, right? In most of these technology companies, engineering is the leader. It's that's where the gravity is, that's where the funding is. And design is usually the one who's late to the party. And so we come in and are trying to get legitimacy. So the first thing I would say is the career ladder needs to map how it works in these other technical functions to give legitimacy. I wasn't involved in developing the career ladder at IBM, but I was involved in doing this at Autodesk at my last company. And I thought we had a really nice framework. I don't remember the details anymore. It's been a few years, but that HR gave us that sort of defined sort of in generic what happens at these different band levels at the company. And then we, thought about what does that mean for design and translating business career ladder to design career ladder in a way that it was analogous. And it's kind of hard to describe in the hypothetical, but I think as much as you can align with how the company sees success, that's really important.
Well, let's see. Janice had a question. What advice do you have for someone who's currently leading a small team at a small company to grow their career towards leading a large team at a mature company like yours? Yeah, and Katrina, just from my perspective, it's always difficult to compare different sized organizations. But I imagine within your own area, there are probably smaller units that are actually really large compared to to others. So, you have any thoughts about Janice's?
Well, what the questioner asked, that was my career path. I mean, I didn't really talk about it, but my first design management job was, my daughter's 20. So she had just been born. So it was 20 years ago. And it was at a small boutique design agency in San Francisco called Hot Studio. And I had 0 employees. I was hired to lead the UX practice, but I didn't have any designers. And then over time, we grew that to, I think by the time I left, I had a team of about 20, 25 people. So I went through every stage from 0 to 20. And now I have, I don't know how many people on my direct team, 3,000 designers overall, and about 650 who report to me directly. So what I would say is the skills, in my experience, the skills I gained working at a small company and also working at agency, where I was seeing the inside of a lot of companies, were invaluable and, directly applied to what I do today.
And just like going a little bit more on that, what kind of how is the feeling within your very large organization where you have broad design efforts, and then you have things happening within individual smaller teams and business units?
Yeah.
I'm just curious about how that's all organized.
Yeah, well, like any big company, we break down into smaller parts. So if you just look at our software division, which is the part that I'm closest to, because I report to the SVP of software, we have a security portfolio, an automation portfolio, a sustainability application portfolio, and a data and AI portfolio. And each of those are multi-billion-dollar portfolios. And then within them are, dozens of software products, and each of those software products, I can't say every single one of them. Some of them don't have a design team, but the strategic important ones have a dedicated design team with a design leader leading them. So, if you were jumping from, let's say you're managing a team of 10 people at a startup or a small agency, and then you jump to a big corporation, you might start by leading a small product team. And then, there's often many opportunities to either move between teams to a bigger job or to keep moving up within your domain expertise.
Well, Katrina, I want to be respectful of your time, and we're at the end of our time for this session. So thank you very much for being here, talking about your experiences and contributing to all the information in this session.
Thanks. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for having me.